Hello everyone. I hope you had a good start into the year 2023. Normally I'd start the video with the song of David Guetta, I'm Good, where the drop just hits when we start blasting on Anubrikan. But not in this video. Today I want to have a brief look back at the year 2022. The year started with me transferring from my dying server to Firemaw. And in the beginning it was only one character because I wasn't sure whether I really want to start playing on Firemaw'nians, whether I would find a guild and enjoy the game. To give some context to this, I started Classic Vanilla on a server called Transcendence. It's a German PvP server. There I played very casually with a bunch of friends. We made a group, we leveled all the way to like level 50, and then some of us decided they want to speed up a bit the process, so the group split up and we all ended up on 60 and started basically making a very casual pug. That pug started in Molten Core still. There was no guild or anything behind it, no larger structure, it was just random people. But over time and with BWL launching, we started forming a guild. It just kind of developed on its own. We didn't plan this in the beginning. And then this guild started becoming more and more serious, so people were actually forced to stay in the guild. But it remained largely casual. Like, we had a large portion of players who were very casual. And then with each phase that would come out, players, some at least, would get more and more ambitious. So while in the beginning almost no one would get world buffs, with every phase the amount of players getting world buffs would increase. And towards the end it was actually a whole guild effort to bring everyone to all the different places to get all the buffs. So that was kind of nice, but it was still a relatively casual guild. So for instance, we didn't clear Naxxramas in first ID. It took us like 4 IDs, I think, until we finally killed KT in Naxxramas. And the same was in AQ, we didn't clear from week 1. At the time, my main was a rogue, and I started becoming more and more serious about the game. Like, I really wanted to pump, but this server that we were on was a very casual server altogether, so there was no real speedrunning guild. There was one, but that guild kinda died off during the start of Naxxramas for whatever reasons. I think it had to do with retail as well. So anyway, I didn't really have a place to go because I didn't really feel as I was in the right place in this relatively casual guild. Even though we managed to get some good boss parses here and there was no speedrunning whatsoever. No, like, we didn't even drink walk or anything. And then with the release of TBC, I kind of knew Rogue wasn't gonna be the big carry. I wasn't looking forward to it. There was some real life stuff going on, and then I kind of decided to lay low, maybe not even play too much. And at the same time, the server started declining in population. It would get harder and harder to find like-minded people at the top, like that are ambitious, that want to go fast, that want to pump hard. So when this guild that emerged from this casual guild from Vanilla, like, it split apart, and there was one guild that emerged that was kinda ambitious, very ambitious goals, but it was really difficult to chase these goals on that dying server, and that led to a lot of problems. And over time, the guild also broke apart, and that was pretty much the end of 2021, where basically the call was, okay, now it's dead. Transcendence has officially died for us, and what do I do now? And I wasn't sure. I thought maybe I'll try Firemaw because I knew Firemaw is the server with all the big guilds. In TBC, because Rogue wasn't the big carry, I actually rerolled to Warlock. So in the beginning of 2022, I transferred my Warlock to Firemaw to check out the place and maybe, potentially find a new home. First, I wasn't too sure how far I want to push it. Do I want to go and apply to Progress, which was by far the most successful guild at the time, or do I want to aim a bit lower? I didn't exactly know what it would mean to do the speedrunning at that level, so I decided to go for something that seemed like a good middle ground, and that was Vendetta at the time. And when I joined, I was a bit overwhelmed in the beginning because, like I said, I have never done any speedrunning. And when you're just thrown into your very first speedrun, it can, like, it was in the middle of SSC TK. So getting thrown into a split run that goes really speedy because they have practiced it a lot, they know what they're doing. Like that can be quite, yeah, difficult in the beginning. I was really nervous. And the funny thing is, there in my very first split, one of the established warlocks suddenly whispered me, "Hey, do you have your fire res gear with you?" And I'm like, "Do you mean fire res gear for Leotheros?" He was like, "Yeah, I forgot mine. Can you maybe do it for me?" Haha. As you can imagine, that didn't really help with the nerves, but I think I did fine. And then I tanked a few runs after that as well, and I think I established myself really good in the guild. And from then on, I kinda always was part of the speedruns because I was playing the right class, Warlock, and I was performing well enough at least. So anyway, the rest of phase two didn't have any like big highlight moments or anything. It was over relatively fast. And then we started in Black Temple. Black Temple release was actually a really funny story for people on Firemaw. We were one of the guilds who were progressing. We were on a really good pace. We had practiced a little bit, like one evening on PTR. From the time we were looking to go top 20 world pace. But then we failed. We wiped on Illidan. Suddenly in the chat, we saw this message that the server is going to restart. We were like, what? What's going on? So Blizzard decided in the middle of the race to restart the servers, and the reason was that the auction house was lagging. The auction house was lagging for weeks, but now in the middle of the race it was really important to restart the server and get the auction house going. Anyway, the server was down for like 30 minutes, if I remember correctly, and then when it came back on, we went on to wipe for a couple of times, because turns out we didn't practice Illidan enough. Yeah, that was a really funny start to Black Temple. And then all throughout Black Temple, we ended up having a good time here and there. We were on a good pace, but we couldn't quite compete because the strategies that some guilds would apply just didn't work for us. We are ambitious, but we still only have like 2 splits, or had at the time. So it's still considered a more casual guild among the speedrunning guilds, of course. Like, we don't have multiple splits, we don't usually do PTR. Like I said, it was only one PTR session for Black Temple. So yeah, that should give you an idea about that. We ended up on rank 58 at the end of Black Temple, which was fine. And then Sunwell came out. And that was really a funny release because I think some guilds raided on Wednesday, the American guilds raided on Tuesday, and then on Thursday, our raid day, Blizzard suddenly announced, hey, by the way, Sunwell is coming next reset. So some guilds had already done their last speedrun without even knowing. Yeah, that was really fun, just having a bomb thrown onto your head was another fun thing after the server restart that we had during Black Temple. So anyway, we went into Sunwell. We struggled a bit more in Sunwell, not on progression, that was not a problem. We cleared first ID relatively quick, but our speedruns in Sunwell had mixed success. We had a really good time at a relatively early stage, but then we didn't really manage to improve. We kept changing strategies almost on a weekly basis. We were changing roster on a regular basis. And then we also had, like, we have this insider joke of DIing the tank on Filmist. That happened a couple of times. And when you only have two splits, and therefore in speedrunning season only really have one speedrun that you're doing, you're not doing any PTR on the side or anything. If you have a fuck up like that, DIing the tank on Filmist, then your speedrun for that week is basically over, and you're not having any progress, or you're not learning, you're not getting better. We ended at a fairly low rank for Vendetta, which was rank 115 worldwide. But I don't think, in hindsight, that I'm really sad about it or anything. I really remember Sunwell as a really tough tier. People who watched speedruns of guilds, maybe even streams, they will remember a lot of resetting, a lot of restarting, because guilds would take really big risks in the trash part up until Calicos just to get everything perfect. So I think this tier was not only relatively difficult, like there were several bosses where something could go wrong, but it was also extremely competitive. Like many of the top speedrunning guilds were doing hours and hours of resets and splits and everything like that. That was really crazy. So I think even though the rank was lower than what we could have achieved, I'm still happy because I know that we have a lot of good players in Vendetta and we will do fine. And then pre-patch came out. I decided to reroll from Warlock, which was my TBC main, to Death Knight actually. I didn't want to go back to Rogue, but I wanted to go back to playing melee because in Classic, when I played Rogue and I played Warrior, that felt really good. And don't get me wrong, playing Warlock, it was really fun in TBC, but I just realized after speedrunning a bunch that I think I am more of a melee player. So I wanted to go back, and why not just pick up the new class, Death Knight? Leveling to level 80 was pretty fun. We formed a group of 5 guildies who would just dungeon grind up until level 80. While we wanted to go relatively quick, we also didn't want to burn out too early because we knew we would have to do a lot of heroics afterwards. So we leveled to level 77 in one session. We had a nice sleep of, I think, 6 to 8 hours, and then we finished to level 80. And then Nox Ramos came out. In my opinion, Nox Ramos is a very special first phase. It was good that it was relatively easy. It gave you a lot of time to do other things like leveling alts, but it was still very special also for speedrunning. So, like I said, Vendetta only had 2 splits, a bit more casual than some of the top guilds, of course, and that's why Vendetta decided to start speedrunning a bit earlier, so that we have enough chances to get our good time in, so that we wouldn't repeat what happened in Sunwell. And that's what we did. We started fairly early. We therefore got a really high rank in the start. We were rank 14 for a brief time, and then by the time I made the screenshot, we were actually rank 17. But that was also because some of the very good guilds were still running splits while we had our first speedrun. The clear time of our first speedrun was 49 minutes and 23 seconds, which was already pretty good. But then just the next week, we already improved to 48 minutes, 34 seconds, which was almost 1 minute improvement. And that following week, several other guilds have started speedrunning, so our 1 minute improvement gave us a rank 19 world. And that remained our personal best time for quite some time. The following week was the 15th of December. We had a little blunder on Gothic. Our tank was slowed ridiculously. He didn't manage to get in time. Our other players pulled as they would in the weeks before. The main tank got locked out, some other people's as well. They died, and then our off tank had to start tanking the Gothic event, but he was still in his cat gear. That's what he informed us, because of course we didn't know our main tank would get locked out, right? That was the point where we wiped, and I thought it can't get worse than that, right? Wiping on Gothic seems ridiculous. The following week, that was the 21st of December, we raided and we actually wiped on Patchwork. But that had some reasons. It was the 21st of December, so some people were already in Christmas holidays. So, for instance, our disc priest that is coordinating all the defensive cooldowns, he's like the raid leader for healers, basically, making all the calls there. So, he was not there. That was not ideal. The following two IDs were during Christmas break, so there we didn't have any speedruns whatsoever. And that concludes our year 2022, actually. It was a fun year. I raided basically the entire year with Vendetta, and I've never regretted the choice to come to Firemaw and join Vendetta. And I'm looking forward to the year 2023.